Good afternoon, members of the press and members of the Colston family and members of Joy Tabernacle Church. Thank you so much for allowing us for hosting us here this afternoon, Pastor McCarthy. My name is Julie Hurwitz. I'm here this afternoon with my law partner, Bill Goodman, and our co-counsel, attorney Teresa Bingman, and together our law firms jointly represent the Colston family as a result of what was done to them by the Michigan State Police just a little over a year ago. I want to introduce you for a moment to the plaintiffs in the lawsuit that we have just filed in federal district court. We have Michelle Colston, who is here with her 3 children, Anaya, Daryl, and SJ. Her brother, Pastor Aaron Dunnigan. Dewan Robinson, on behalf of Black Lives Matter, will be saying a few words this afternoon as well. And Pastor Todd Womack will also be speaking on behalf of the family here this afternoon. And Pastor McCathern, who is the pastor here at Joy Tabernacle Church, will also be saying a few words. Thank you, Pastor. We stand here today on behalf of these plaintiffs, our clients, Renee Dunnigan and Michelle Colston, and Michelle's 3 young children who you've met. They are law-abiding citizens in the city of Flint. They always have been. They have full-time jobs. They are raising their children and grandchildren peacefully and as law-abiding citizens. On the night of Wednesday, April 21st, 2021, while living in their home on Garland Street, where they had lived for 14 years, in a predominantly Black community in the north end of Flint, sometime between 9 and 10 at night, this family was in their home, preparing for bed, preparing for school the next day, preparing for work. Michelle was in the shower. Renee was down in the living room with her 14-year-old granddaughter, Anaya, sitting not more than 10 feet from the front door of their home that they had lived in. She was braiding Anaya's hair, getting ready for school the next day. 10-year-old Daryl was up in his bedroom, getting ready for bed, doing homework, getting ready for school. And 3-year-old SJ was, you are 4 now. At the time he was 3, but now he's 4. Was asleep in his bed. No one in this family had any idea what was about to happen. But next thing they knew, without any warning whatsoever, no knock on the door, no announcement at the door, no warning of any kind, Michigan State Police Emergency Services team, basically the SWAT team, using a battering ram, smashed in their front door, and at least 15 to 20 fully armed, helmeted, hooded machine state troopers barged into their home, guns pointing, yelling, screaming, without any explanation or attempt to engage in discussion whatsoever, held this innocent family as prisoners while their home was ransacked and their children were terrorized. 3-year-old SJ was awoken from his sleep with the gun pointing at him. 10-year-old Daryl was ordered to come down the stairs with the gun pointed at him. Michelle, who had just gotten out of the shower, was literally naked when their front door was batter-rammed and was barely allowed to put at least a robe on to cover herself. And Renee and Anaya were ordered at gunpoint to simply stay put in their living room and not speak. By then, dozens of other law enforcement officers entered their home. We don't even know exactly how many officers had trespassed into this innocent family's house because there is no video footage or documentation of what these officers did while they were unlawfully inside the Dunnigan-Colston home. And there is no video footage of this police action because not only did this raid occur without any warning or notice to the family, but the Michigan State Police, as a matter of policy, never equipped their officers with body cameras. So the family members inside the house were prohibited from touching their own cell phones under threat of arrest or physical force. The entire family was held for almost an hour before anyone even bothered to inquire about a car that was parked in a shared driveway next to their house. When I say shared driveway, I mean there was one driveway that their house shared with the house immediately next door. It was only when one of the officers asked about this car that the state police officers were that the family first learned that the car even had anything to do with this intrusion into their home, and the state police officers were advised immediately that the car, which had been parked in that same spot since 7 a.m. that morning, had nothing to do with them or their house. So they just left. As quickly as they barged in, when they realized they were in the wrong house, they just left. No apologies, no further explanation, nothing. And by then, the damage was done. This family and their small children were permanently traumatized. Everything that happened on that evening of April 21st, 2021 was in violation of the United States Constitution and Michigan civil rights laws, as well as Michigan common law. Today we have filed 2 complaints, one in the federal district court alleging federal civil rights violations under the United States Constitution. The warrant was issued without probable cause. The warrant was executed in violation of the Fourth Amendment by failing to knock and announce before entering. The use of force was a violation of the United States Constitution. And the state of Michigan and the state troopers, in addition to violating federal constitutional rights of this family, also violated the Michigan Civil Rights Act, otherwise known as the Elliott-Larsen Civil Rights Act, for which we are also going to be filing, as soon as we leave this press conference, in the Genesee County Circuit Court, a separate complaint against the state and these troopers under the Elliott-Larsen Civil Rights Act. We are seeking damages for the irreparable harm that was done to this hardworking family and their children. And you'll hear more from the family members and the spokesperson on behalf of this family talking about some of the damages that they are experiencing to this very day. We also have a joint press statement that was issued this morning by State Senators Ananek, Geis, and Chang, who have been working tirelessly in the state Senate to try to push for meaningful police reform legislation in our state. One piece of legislation includes a ban on no-knock warrants and also the mandatory use of body cameras. That's one of several items that are at issue with the state legislation that is being worked through, but is not being allowed to go to the full Senate for a vote because certain members of the committee I think we all know who they might be, are preventing it from leaving committee. And we have copies of that press statement on that table over there, and my partner Bill Goodman will be reading it to you a little bit later. One of the fundamental issues that took place on that night in this neighborhood of Flint is that we know none of this would have gone down the way that it did had the Dunnigan-Colstons been white, family living in a white neighborhood. Every step that was taken was careless, thoughtless, and filled with implicit assumptions about who this family was and why it was not necessary to do the proper type of investigation before barging into their home and breaking their door down. The assumptions that were made led this police agency to simply treat everybody on that street, because they live in a black community and they are a black family, the assumption is if you're black, you're probably a criminal. So that's what happened on the night of April 21st. The knock and announce that did not occur, what they claimed that they did was they took a scout car, parked it in the middle of the street, and supposedly some officer stood there with a PA saying, "Police, police, let us in." And everybody on that street was supposed to know, apparently, that they were the ones being ordered to open their doors. Because everybody on that street is black and everybody on that street must be a criminal, so everybody on that street must know that when the police say open up, they need to open their doors. This was a blatantly racist act, and it's gone on for too long by our law enforcement agencies, both in the state and around the country, and it's time to hold them accountable. And this lawsuit is seeking to do that, hold them accountable. And at this time, I'm going to turn the floor over to Reverend Aaron to talk more about the specifics of what happened to his family and why they are seeking justice here today.
Good morning or afternoon. I am Aaron. This is my family. My mom chose not to come today, as this is still a very difficult experience that they are experiencing. A lot of people like to say, why don't you just get over it? And I think as a black community, we are expected to get over things that happen to us and never deal with it or process it. They are in the process of processing it with counseling sessions and different things like that, and they have elected not to speak today, as it is still very difficult for them to talk about what happened to them over a year ago. One of the things we find most challenging and difficult is to not be given the same opportunities as other people from other communities. We just received the information that we've been trying to get for over a year a few weeks ago as to why they came into my mom's and sister's house. That, for me, is very difficult, because when you do something wrong in our community, you're held accountable for it right then and there. You're locked up until they figure out if you're guilty or not. And in this case, it seems like, once again, there are going to be groups of people that go, unpunished or without any reprimand for what happened. Nobody in our community deserves to have their door battered in at 10:30 at night and held at gunpoint by people that we pay to protect us. I think I've said this plenty of times, that I wouldn't want to live in a world without some type of police system, but also I wouldn't want to live in a world where the police can just come in and do what they want when they want without any recourse. I think it's super important that we understand that when you hold a kid who is 3 and now 4 at gunpoint, what that has the ability to do to them as they grow up. When you talk about a city that is already under pressure from the water crisis and the effect of lead in our systems, and that the system that we continue to pay our taxes to creates spaces to punish us, and there's never a space for us to be able to heal, is just unacceptable. You look at communities all over this world or country, and when something happens in those communities, they instantly send in therapists and different people to help process what has happened. In our city, we get none of that. We go through more stuff than anybody and are expected just to be strong and deal with it. Nobody is able to walk through that alone. And I think my family, and I think it speaks for themselves, why they don't even want to speak about it outside of the therapy that they're doing. Because there's some good days, but then there's days where this conversation is really hard and trying for them. And I think that it's only right that the people responsible for it be held accountable for it and give answers, just like we would have to do had the shoe been on the other foot. I am just so grateful that this day didn't turn out like so many other days did for so many people who look like us. So many people who didn't get the opportunity to stand up in front of you and tell you how wrongfully they were treated because they were killed by the people that are supposed to protect them. I am so grateful, and I thank God every day that that is not this story. But that story does exist. And the only way that it stopped existing is if we as a people and as a nation stand up to make changes to the laws that allow this situation to keep happening time and time again. I just want to thank you guys, my family, for the perseverance that you've showed, the ability to continue to get up and go to school and get straight A's, the ability to go to work and still serve your community, the ability to continue to go to church and be an upstanding citizen, even though this world hasn't given you a fair hand. I applaud you for that, and I think that this process will bring about some light and change, or at least that's my hope. Thank you.
Reverend, could you spell your first name for me, please?
Aaron, Aaron.
Thank you very much.
Pastor Womack will now say a few words.
Thank you all for this opportunity, Dunnigan Colston family, just to share some thoughts on behalf of my family and friends here in the Flint community. So I just want to frame this within the context of the bigger picture. And there's this quote I want to share with you starting off. Trauma results from an event, series of events, or set of circumstances that are experienced by individuals as physically or emotionally harmful or threatening, and that has lasting adverse effects on the individual's functioning and physical, social, emotional, and spiritual well-being. That's from Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, 2019. Dr. Mays Ahmad states that trauma can be defined as any negative life event that occurs in a position of relative helplessness, and that our instinct to survive defines our reaction to trauma regardless of our conscious awareness. So in other words, and this is really simplistic, when one experiences trauma, the individual's instinct to survive takes over. Our brain senses a threat or danger, and we will disengage to avoid the danger or threat, or we will do what is necessary to survive that danger or that threat. There is no argument that the experience of the Dunnigan Colston family was a traumatic experience perpetuated by the Michigan State Police. But remember that this family resides in the city of Flint, a city that over the years has experienced multiple traumas, disinvestment, gun violence, water crises, and most recently, COVID-19. This family was already in survival mode when the Michigan State Police entered their home unannounced. One could and should frame this in the context of a home invasion. The state police entered the Dunnigan Colston family home unannounced and without permission from the family. Now, where I come from, when someone unannounced enters your home, you immediately move to survival mode and you attempt to defend your life, your dignity, and your humanity. the Michigan State Police violated the Dunnigan-Colston family's life, dignity, and humanity by holding this helpless family both literally and figuratively at gunpoint. Question: if all law enforcement are trained similarly, why is it that mainly white law enforcement personnel are involved in most incidents of no-knock warrants that either threaten or take the lives of black and brown people across this country? Amir Locke and Breonna Taylor, just to name a few victims of law enforcement negligence and the dishonoring of black and brown bodies in this country. It is our hope that the Michigan State Police be held accountable, but also that they will make amends to the trauma experienced by the Dunnigan-Colston family during their no-knock raid. The April 21st, 2021 experience with the Michigan State Police will be with this family for the rest of their lives. This experience should not have happened. A mistake? Doubtful. Racism? Probable. It is our hope that law enforcement reform begins here today with this cause, and that the universal ban on no-knock warrants takes place in Michigan, United States of America, and worldwide. Thank you.
Real quick, can I get your, can I get the spelling of your name?
Todd, T-O-D-D, Womack, W-O-M-A-C-K. W-O-M-A-C-K.
Got it, thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm attorney Teresa Bingman. Last year, several months after the raid took place, on behalf of our clients, we sent this letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland and Principal Deputy Assistant Attorney General Pamela S. Carlin, requesting an independent federal civil rights investigation by the Department of Justice. We requested the Department of Justice to examine policies, training, and supervision of MSP and their partner police agencies, particularly as they impact minority communities throughout the state of Michigan. Almost a year has passed, and after we have made this request, and our letter has not even been acknowledged, let alone an investigation being ordered. Over the past year, more police-involved incidents that target African Americans have occurred in our nation and in our state, including the actions of East Lansing police officers who, on April 25th, 2022, violently shot a 20-year-old gentleman, DeAnthony Van Anten. He was shot twice in a Meijer parking lot after the police responded to what was reported as a man with a gun. Also, on April 4th, 2022, a Grand Rapids police officer brutally shot and killed 26-year-old Patrick Lyoya in the back of his head after a traffic stop for an equipment violation. As the tragic events leave the Grand Rapids and the East Lansing communities crying out for justice, we are now calling upon Governor Whitmer, as the leader of our state, to order an independent investigation of this unlawful raid that took place in our client's home. And we're also asking the governor to mandate an investigation to explore the continuing series of urgent and unresolved issues of police misconduct, unreasonable use of force, and discriminatory practices that target African Americans in Michigan. The process should include an examination of policies, training, and supervision of police agencies. We are calling for concrete and measurable actions, and not just words, to reform police policies, practices, and procedures that play out in a discriminatory manner and disproportionately and negatively impact the Black community. We listened with interest to Governor Whitmer's expressions as she spoke after meeting with the family of Patrick Lyoya in Grand Rapids. She sympathized with the loss of their loved ones and demonstrated her understanding of the plight of Black Michiganders. The governor emphasized that, quote, "We must come together and build a future where Black Michiganders are afforded equal rights, dignity, and safety in our communities. I will never stop fighting to make Michigan a more equitable and just state," unquote. Her response was then bolstered by Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist, who firmly stated, in part, and I quote, "We must never cease our efforts to reverse inequities, create systemic change, and guarantee justice for communities of color," unquote. With that being said, we do sincerely hope that our state leaders understand the urgency here. We do not have time to waste, and we do not have time to wait as more people are killed and injured. That is why we have filed complaints against the Michigan State Police and federal and state courts on behalf of our clients in this Flint, Michigan area for this Flint, Michigan African-American family, an American family who are victims of unconstitutional, violent, and insensitive acts of police officers who have no regard for the rights and the lives of families like this family, the Dunnigans and the Colstons, this American family and many others who look like them and who look like me. We all deserve justice and peace of mind in knowing that our government will not continue to fail us and violate our rights inside of our homes and outside of our homes as well. Thank you. Now turn it over to Pastor McCaffrey.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes we don't put a face on the crisis, but I've been their pastor since their birth. The young man is a minister here, accepted his calling at 13, active in the church, doing everything right. Valedictorian when she graduated after having a child at a young age, still became the valedictorian. Doing everything you told us to do as the American dream. But one day, it's the same scenario that happened in Ukraine. Russia decides to invade a country and then invade their citizens. And the same has happened in America. What I see on the news is they always put a face on the Ukrainians, and so we feel that they're human and we see the violation. I want to put a face on my members. These are children. This is a mother who graduated a valedictorian, a grandmother who raised their children, and in the same, their territory was invaded. And someone like the same scenario with Russia must be accountable. So we're holding Russia accountable for what happened there. And I think, and my understanding, the family is asking for accountability of their invasion. And so I apologize as your pastor for what you have experienced. I see the difference in your life. Son, I see the difference. I see what trauma has done. But I love you, and what they need to know is that America loves them, and that we have the same sensitivity that we're having for the invasion of Ukraine, for the invasion that happens in the lives of people and civilians that do not deserve this injustice. I'm sorry for how America has failed you, but God will never fail you. Okay? Thank you.
Now you're going to hear from Sawan Robinson, the leader of the Black Lives Matter movement here in Flint area.
first and foremost, I want to thank and send love and value to the Dunnigan and Colston family. Once again, we do apologize that this injustice did take place. This is our family. This is our community members. These are our people. And it's just unfortunate that they had to endure this type of behavior from an agency which you expect protection, first and foremost. So we want to continue to seal healings to the family and ensure that they are made whole. I think that's the most important thing. Then the second piece is then to hold accountability. I think, you know, this is kind of becoming a rerun. We continue to have these conversations and no policy change has took place at all. No one has been held accountable. I think that's the issue in America when it comes down to black folks, because they feel that they have done everything right in this country. They feel that they have obtained the American dream and still feel the effects of injustice from every level of life. And so that's something that we have to be very stern about rectifying. If we really want to do something about this situation to be the difference, then that takes us banding together at every level. That means community members, that means lawmakers, that means police agencies, all have to understand that there's only one human race. And until we really realize that and we do something about this, we're going to continue to have these differences of how we're dealing with different people. And that's unacceptable. Michigan State Police went into this family home, didn't notify them of the circumstance. The family didn't know or understand what was going on. These are babies in the home that do not understand what's taking place, and they have been impacted for life. All African Americans have been impacted by 500 years of trauma. It's going to take 500 years of healing to reverse that trauma that's in our DNA, that's in our blood, that we carry every day. When we're out here in these streets and we're living and we're trying to take care of our families, we're trying to be upstanding members in this community, we are trying to advance. And it's so difficult because you always have everything standing up against you. The odds is always against us. And it's a survival mode that we do feel on a day-to-day basis. So what happens when we lose hope? What happens when we take matters into our own hands? And I think those are the type of dealings, those are the type of reactions that America has yet to really realize, to see that we're on the cuff of. When we're talking about being constituents in this community, we're supposed to be protected by lawmakers. We're supposed to be protected by the police agencies. That has not happened. This family has waited a year to get any response from the Michigan State Police Department, only to be disappointed for what they found from the documents. I mean, this is a total lack of disrespect, and this community should be in the uproar. I think we should be fighting for these young babies that had to endure that time, to be having unidentified people in their home, drawing guns out, kicking in their door, and then not even relaying why they're there. I saw this take place. I saw how this all took place. I seen the police in our neighborhood that were staged all around the area. We were notified that they were there. And so as duly citizens of the community, it was our responsibility to ensure that we alert the family. That's when we made the call. But to see all that play out and to continue to see them doing this in communities all around America, to continue to see young black people being killed in the streets, to continue to be talking about it every other month, every other year, it is super frustrating. Very frustrating. It's tiring. I don't know what else do you expect from people who are asking to be accepted. It's not even like we should be asking to be accepted. It's not even about asking for it. This is something we should be willingly given. We shouldn't wait for this family to continue to ask for relief. We shouldn't have to ask for the Lawyer family and comfort the Mrs. Lawyer in Grand Rapids and talking about, well, things should get better. Things should already be better. I think we at the moment now, we have to do now. We have to do something today. We have to make things right now. That is what people are asking for. We need people who are willing to take these issues to the table and hold accountability at the highest level. If we're not ready to do that, then we're going to find ourselves in these circumstances in the next month, in the next 6 months, by next year. So I'm asking, I'm not even asking, I'm saying, for one, let's wrap our hands around the Dunnigan Colston family. Let's making sure that we love them. Let's provide the professional service to help them get over this trauma. And let's rectify the situation for them. And on the back end, two, we need to change policy. We need to hold accountability. One thing for sure, we can end no knock warrants. That's for sure. We also need to address qualified immunity, because that's a layer of protection that protects police officers that's out here on the beat in urban communities that they don't respect, inflicting injustice and harm on citizens that do not deserve any of that behavior. This is our time to really do something about it instead of sweeping things under the rug. It's our time to really step up and be of a culture, be of a community, be of a country that loves its citizens. Not because you say it, but because you show it in action. Isn't that what the Federalist Papers is about? The majority is supposed to protect the minorities, if you understand the Constitution. But we have not felt that, we have not seen that, we have never been subjected to it. So I'm at a point where I'm willing to do whatever's necessary. I'm asking this community to continue to always do what's necessary. And calling out this injustice and this behavior from Michigan State Police, from any law agencies all around this country, that is inflicting harm instead of protecting its citizens. Today we stand in solidarity with the family, but today we denounce those behaviors. And today we are serious about the outcomes. No longer will we wait for you to get your stuff in order. We demand justice and accountability. And we demand it now. So I thank everybody for continuing to keep the family uplifted, because it's the children who we really want to look after, because we are trying to make the difference today for a better tomorrow. And just as SJ just told you, he's 4. He's going to be living with this for the rest of his life. Because if you understand epigenetics, we're carrying that spirit, we're carrying the hurt, the anger, the disrespect of our ancestors from 500 years ago. It's in our DNA. So we're doing this for our ancestors. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams. Today is not. And I just continue to want to send blessings to us in this community, continue to give blessings to this family, and let's do the right thing by holding those accountable for the actions that they have served in this community. And again, be able to ensure that you have the right people in position that's at the table that is going to make the difference, that is going to change the laws, that's going to be beneficial for the constituents. That time is now. So we're tired of this action and we're tired of this behavior. Let's do something about it. So I appreciate everybody in their time. Really appreciate, just continue to stay in focus, just stay diligent. Dunnigan, Colston family, continue to stay strong. This is not over. This is a lifetime fight. So we thank you. We appreciate everybody for coming out.
I think I'm the last person to be up here. My name is Bill Goodman. I'm an attorney. I've specialized in civil rights law for many years. And first of all, I would like to read a statement issued by Senators Senator Jim Ananich, Stephanie Chang, and Erica Geis regarding Senate Bill 473 through 484 that were introduced to address issues that have arisen from past and recent interactions between officers and residents around the state, in which no-knock warrants have and/or excessive use of force has occurred. Quote, as public officials, our duty is to develop solutions to systemic problems. To that end, we have spent the last year working together with colleagues and stakeholders on a bipartisan package of bills to address police accountability and transparency issues in Michigan. There's a need for us to improve police policies and practices to prevent traumatic, life-altering incidents from happening to our community members. From national tragedies to local issues, troubling interactions with law enforcement serve as reminders that no-knock warrants should be banned and knock-and-enter warrants need to be defined better. We also need to ensure that all police officers are equipped with body cameras so that investigators, policy leaders, and the public can view the footage, which will help increase transparency and establish accountability between officers and residents. Should something go wrong, it is clear that fundamental changes in our approach to public policy and policing are needed, and we are committed to seeing these bills passed and sent on to the governor's desk to be signed into law. So that's the statement of these state senators. I will now answer any questions that anyone may have regarding the occurrence of the Dunnigan-Colston family or any other issues that have been brought up here today.
We've been here, we were here a year ago.
Yes, we were.
Has nothing happened? Has the state police done anything? Have they paid to replace the door? Have they done anything?
The door has been replaced. Other than that, nothing has been done. There's been no apology. We had to struggle mightily to obtain the records regarding the raid that occurred on this family. The state police initially denied that they had any records, which is absurd. And finally, they turned us back to the Flint Police Department, which finally produced the records that we've needed in order to draft a coherent and, in fact, detailed complaint, which you can see when you read 35 pages of documentation of what happened. So
I think it's also important to note.
Pastor, can you step forward?
It's also important to note that they were offered $5,000 to make them whole, as was quoted in my mom's living room by was it the lieutenant?
yeah.
By the lieutenant, and the captain came to their house. After we got lawyers, of course, they said that conversation had to stop. But they did offer $5,000 as a make you whole gesture, which is just asinine.
Thank you.
And by the way, who paid for the door?
The state police prepared the door and paid for it. But they didn't clean up the mess that was made. They didn't solve and cure and make whole the psychological damage in this family, especially its children that have been ripped apart. No, that they didn't do.
Yeah. You've been doing this a long time. Does it surprise you how little response you've gotten from the feds and from the state?
How little the response is we've gotten from the feds? No.
And the state as well.
And the state? No, it doesn't surprise me. Government, they're into keeping their heads above water and trying to avoid difficult situations and address difficult problems, which will increase some conflict. But you need conflict in order to get resolution. And no, it doesn't surprise me a bit. It's what I've seen for over 50 years. Yes?
What kind of psychological issues has the family been having? Has the little one had night terrors or anything to that extent?
Well, I don't want to go into too much detail about it, nor can I really. This is between these children and their therapists, and it will be brought out when we get into court and have to prove these things. But the one thing I can say is that the entire family suffers from something we all know about, post-traumatic stress disorder. And that causes depression, it causes anxiety, it causes flashbacks, it causes nightmares, it causes fear. And I think that in general, those are the kinds of problems one could expect to see and we have seen with our clients here.
I will add one other fact that I think is very compelling. We have small children in this family who, before this happened, respected the police. They were told to respect the police. Now, when they see the police, they ask their mom and their grandmother and their uncle, oh, are these men going to kill us? That is how they experience the police now as a result of what happened to them in their home.
Do you have a guess as to how long this is going to take? Is this something that, if they fight you, could last a decade? The state and federal suits?
How long it's going to take?
Yeah.
Well, we heard a reference, I thought a very coherent reference, to the problems of qualified immunity. That doctrine alone has added 2 years onto every lawsuit that's brought, in addition to the usual 2 or 3 years it takes to get through the process. So keep those things in mind, but yes, qualified immunity is a terrible problem. It gives the government an automatic right to appeal when things don't go their way. How many of us have that right?
Have there been a verbal or written, I understand there was some wrongdoing, but have they verbally or written, you guys as a family admitting their mistakes?
I don't think that there's been an apology that is meaningful. When the lieutenant came to the house, I don't think that there was a serious apology from her. No, there has not. Yes.
In one of the complaints, it mentions the damages being somewhere around $25,000, if I recall correctly. How is it just, did I get that wrong?
No,
That's just a
I can answer that. I can answer that question. In order to file a lawsuit for violation of civil rights, such as we have, you have to allege that the damages are greater than $25,000. It's a jurisdictional requirement.
I see.
Okay, but no, that is not. We're not asserting that as the amount of damage in this case. We believe it's much greater.
But you don't have a specific figure yet that we have for a jury to decide.
That's really for a jury. Yep.
The one additional fact of damages is under the Federal Civil Rights Act, not only is this family entitled to recover compensation for what happened to them, and the damages they suffered are way in excess of $25,000. We can assure you of that. But the jury will also be allowed to award punitive damages against the individual officers who so blatantly violated their rights. So, and one other fact about how the state has responded to what happened here. When we initially tried to get a copy of the search warrant, this was a murder investigation that was taking place that had happened the day before the raid. They went to court and they got the magistrate to order that the warrant be sealed. And under the law, they could do that. Under certain circumstances, you can say that, you know, there's a suspect still at large, we don't have to, normally the warrant has to be given to the homeowner when their home is raided. They're entitled to a copy of the warrant. They did not do that here. They got a court order sealing the warrant. The statute that allows the warrant to be sealed only allows it to be sealed for a certain number of days. That time had long passed when they kept telling us, we can't give you the warrant, we can't give you the warrant, it's under seal. That was just a lie. When we finally approached their Freedom of Information office and said, that's not true, you can't keep it sealed, their response was, oh, did we say it was sealed? No, 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 it's not sealed, but we don't have it. Because we at the Michigan State Police, we don't keep digital versions, copies of our search warrants. We only keep paper copies. And we turned all that over to the Flint Police Department, so you have to go get it from them. Well, that's what we did, And we got eventually, as was stated, it took over a year, and we finally got a copy of the warrant where all the lies that they relied on to justify getting a warrant for this home we were able to see them. But also what we saw was in the Michigan State Police report, at the very end, it says, search warrant obtained, uploaded onto the S drive, which means the state had a copy of this warrant the whole time that they were telling us that they didn't, and made us wait over a year to finally direct us to the Flint Police Department, where we finally got a copy of the warrant. So that's how the state has responded to what happened to this family.
Just as a lack of respect, and this is what I want to say for us as constituents and agencies and attorneys, if they are not respecting our wishes as humans, what we should do is look at this not as a civil rights issue, but a human rights issue. If we're not getting any resolve here in this country, then it's our duty to take this to the United Nations and fight at the highest levels. Those are the type of initiatives that garners results. Because we see what's taking place here, even in our own local community. The state of Michigan, some state of Michigan police are not taking the citizens serious. And that's an act of disrespect. So I think us really kind of mobilizing, if we're not, I think we should be looking at how we combine our concerns and taking this to the next level as a humanitarian issue for protecting our human rights. So I did want to point that out there.
I have one last thing to say also. Basically the claim here is the civil rights claim, the race discrimination claim, is that what happened here was they saw a car parked in the driveway and jumped to the conclusion that it belonged to one family wrongly, as opposed to maybe the other family on the other side of the driveway, a shared driveway. And what this really was sloppy police work. It's police work that would not have occurred in a white community. It's police work which says, what difference does it make? You know, they're all the same, they're all guilty, they're all whatever. Criminals. This is the essence of the racism that was a part of the investigation of this particular incident. So I guess that's it. Oh, sorry.
Now, as you stated earlier, the MSP did say that they had used a PA system. The MSP did say that they used a PA system, as you stated earlier. Has your team, through your legal investigation, been able to find evidence that that wasn't indeed the case?
This was a very quiet night in a very quiet neighborhood. And anyone, I see that Reverend Heron wants to stand up and say something, but anyone who was out there, if such an announcement had been made, would have heard it. None of these people heard that. I don't believe it happened.
If that happened, like Bill said, nobody in my mom's house heard. After I got there, they made me wait outside for, DeJuan called me and said, the police are at your mom's house, they're inside. I said, ain't no way possible, right? And so after he convinced me that they were, I got up and came over. They held me outside for over an hour without even telling me if my family was alive or not. After I got in and they left, they were going to my house because they were just, super shook up. The door was busted open, nowhere to close it. And the state police SWAT team pulls back up, as I'm on the porch, pulls back up. They didn't announce anything, and they raided the house next door. So I find it difficult to believe that they made an announcement the first time, but then didn't make an announcement for the second house that they raided directly next door to my mom's house.
In fact, we've got the police report connected to the raid on the Dunnigan-Colston family, and we have the police report associated with the raid on the house next door. Very redacted, but both of them had the same exact paragraph in it, describing supposedly this car in the street. Officer Chinette, who's one of the named defendants in this case, with his PA system announcing whatever it is they claim to have announced. So,
That did not happen.
there was they put in this police report that that this house was subject to the raid and to the warrant because it had been, and I quote, affiliated with gang activity. They put that in the police report about the Dunnigan Colston house. It's a flat-out, complete racist lie.
And I was there the night. I saw the whole situation play out. I was alerted and told that we had police presence in the neighborhood. And so I was out there the whole time. I seen the lineup, I seen where they was parked at, where they were in different quadrants of the different corners, where they staged in different areas. I seen everything, so I was there. And I'm the one who notified Mr. Dunnigan and let him know that police were at his mother's home. They did not make any announcement at all, whatsoever. Never said anything. They just took it upon themselves and went into Mrs. Dunnigan's home. That's exactly what they did. No PA system, no calling it out, didn't alert anyone. They were just some thugs that broke in and entered into another person's home. Yeah. So I live in the area, and in our neighborhood. Yeah, I live in the area, so when our neighbors called me and said that there's police staged all in our neighborhood, oh, we was out there. We surveyed and filmed the whole thing. So they never not once alerted, didn't say anything about coming in, didn't identify themselves as police officers. They just went in the home. And that's all on video.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.